I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're uncovering the startling truths behind bioaccumulation and its effects on our children's health with Kalubriah Sage. She's the author of a powerful book. It is called Dylan and the Wolf, a true story of a boy, the world, and bioaccumulation, saving our children from the world's biggest psychopath. This compelling book reveals the dark realities of medical conscription and how toxic practices in agriculture, food, and medicine are impacting future generations. Through the story of a real boy, the author sheds light on how families are navigating a system that prioritizes profit over health. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Kalubriah, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, Logan.
It's my pleasure. Tell us what the inspiration is behind this book, Dylan and the Wolf, and sharing Dylan's story.
Well, I wrote it to defend choice in medicine in alignment with the Nuremberg Code and to show people how the system is rigged and where questioning is prevented, questioning is required.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about bioaccumulation, what it is, and why it's so dangerous for our children?
Well, bioaccumulation is where toxic chemicals build up in biological systems and affect genetics over time.
Tell us a little
To the
bit
detriment.
about Dylan and how bioaccumulation impacted Dylan.
Well, my son had a vaccination that led to cancer, and then he went through chemotherapy, and that affected his genetics very poorly. Well, he got well the first time. We fixed him from cancer the first time. We also used alternative medicines. When he was 8 years old, it came back again. And because the body is so incredible at moving beyond the effects of chemicals, he didn't respond to anything. And the previous round of chemotherapy that he had when he was younger had damaged his DNA, and he started to produce mutant T cells in about 4 populations of them, and it was confirmed that they weren't the old cancer, it was a new one, and he didn't survive that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Nothing but.
I'm so sorry about that. What a tragedy. And I guess that's part of the motivation of this book is to spare other mothers and other parents the pain you suffered because of bioaccumulation and a lot of the other things that big pharma tends to sell us.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about chemotherapy protocols and alternative treatments?
Well, we're told that there are no choices because the protocols are built around a gravy train that doesn't allow any other choices. And we're told that alternative medicines and alternative treatments are hoaxes, and they're not. We're just not allowed to make those choices. But I'm hoping that that will change in the future.
Nowhere is this clearer than if you look at the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to work, which means in order to live and in order to survive, The government essentially forced us to take an experimental vaccine, and in many cases, multiple doses of an experimental vaccine. What are your views on this intersection of civil rights and medical choices?
Well, they're against the Nuremberg Code for a start, which is an international law. And chemotherapy is a trial, as well as COVID, and it's been going for a long time. It's never been considered an actual cure because it doesn't actually cure anyone. It gives someone a bit of relief for a few years and then cancers return. And so that's why the book, to provide people with alternatives that they could look at, with the hope that more choice will be made available in the future.
Tell us a little bit about I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I've lost my words.
Okay, that's okay. Tell us a little bit about the concept of medical entrapment that you mentioned in the book.
Okay, well, in my case, I had to go back to work, and in our country, they have a compulsory vaccination regime. And if you do not get your child vaccinated, then they're not allowed into daycare, they're not allowed into childcare, they're not allowed into school. And so that is why Dylan was vaccinated, and 3 weeks later, he had cancer. And when we went through the treatments, even though I'd found a very good treatment from America called Protocell, or it's known as Antilev in Australia, and it's harm-free, but it is shown to have very positive effects, we were not allowed out of the chemotherapy protocol, and I was threatened and told that I would be taken to court and my child would be removed from me, and that I would not be allowed to visit him, even in hospital. And so we were basically forced into going along with what I consider to be a World War II Nazi regime that has more harm than good. And that is entrapment.
Yeah, the pressure put on parents and individuals to accept the treatments of big pharma, to accept the treatments of big med are insurmountable. And like you said, in your case, you were threatened with your parenthood. Basically, they would take your child away, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in
Amazing.
COVID, they used a psyop called the Rand prisoner dilemma, where they pit people against their families and their communities in order that they give up. They're rewarded for giving up their civil rights. And a whole lot of fear, guilt, and division is used in order to make it happen. And a product that needs that needs to be questioned.
Without a doubt. What do you hope readers take away from your book? What do you hope they learn from your book?
So I hope that they gain an understanding of the pathways of diabolical control, suppressed research, and how it may assist with wellness today. For instance, there was a couple of doctors in the US at the Albert Einstein Medical Research Institute, Doctors Carley and Stevens, and they were AIDS researchers. And I've put that in the book at page 6 and links in at page 136 and 137. And they discovered that microampules of electricity the healthy human cells could withstand 100,000 times more electricity than any pathogen. And they were able to disable the AIDS virus from attaching to a host. And I added that because I had done some research, and the AC2 receptor was used in the manufacture of this new virus. And this is one of those treatments that's been swept under the carpet in the 90s that could assist. And it's been made to completely disappear because at the time, the Clinton administration was convinced to manage AIDS with chemicals. And that was under Mr. Fauci, I believe, as well. And so they put $3 billion into managing AIDS with chemicals. And so Dr. Carley and Stevens' research was swept under the carpet and made to disappear, except for 14 patents that they had developed. And another doctor who was in the Navy in the US got a bit outraged and spent his own money and a few years' research to prove that Dr. Carley and Stevens' research was valid. And he was hounded by the authorities. And that's the way the gravy train is. They're not, and many of the foundations, they're not about cures because they don't make money. They're about a gravy train. And it's interesting to follow the money trail and see what they spend their money on. And it's pretty disheartening when you find that they're, well-known foundations that they're supposed to be supporting cures are actually out there trying to put injunctions on good research and prevent it from getting out to the public eye so that people continue doing what they've always done.
Amazing, amazing. You have to follow the money. Like you said, cures are a one-time thing. They don't make a lot of money. But when they get you hooked on a drug, they know they have a patient for life. And that's part of it. Wonderful work on this book. It is called Dylan and the Wolf, a true story of a boy, the world, and bioaccumulation, saving our children from the world's biggest psychopath. It is a compelling book, a compelling read that reveals the dark realities of medical conscription and how toxic practices in agriculture, food, and medicine are impacting future generations. Kalubriah, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much for having me, Logan.
I appreciate your time. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.